Hello, I just recently produced a video talking about the 5 key elements that you need to sit down and discuss prior to submitting a real estate offer. Well, as a follow-up to that video, I'm actually creating an offer for one of my buyer clients today, and I'd like to discuss some of the key clauses that you want to have in an offer to protect you and to really clarify different items within the offer with the sellers. So let's get right to it. So for this video, I'm going to keep it pretty informal. I've literally got the offer right here that I'm going to be submitting later today, and I'll walk you through some of those key clauses. So the first one is having the right to view the property a few times prior to completion. These visits could be used for taking a few measurements before closing. That's generally the first one. Quite often you want to bring in a couple of family members, maybe a contractor, if you need to get a quote for something that you want to do with the property once you move in. What I will say though, just make sure that if you're bringing in a contractor or a few different family members, have your realtor check with the listing realtor and the sellers to make sure that they're okay with it. I'd also keep a visit right before closing to make sure that everything's good before closing. So either the day of closing or possibly the day before closing. The second one is becoming more and more important. And what that clause is that any lease to own, rental contracts of any type that are being included with the house but are not being assumed by the buyer need to be paid out by the sellers. Okay, so where I'm going with this is that quite often we're starting to see furnaces and air conditioners that are rental items or other rental items that aren't noted in the listing. And quite often, especially furnaces and air conditioners, there's a huge buyout amount. So if the buyer is thinking that those are owned items, which quite often they're owned items, but then they find out after closing that they're rental items, that's not a good thing because there could be a huge cost amount to that. So what we like to do is flush that out right in the offer, make sure that there are no rental items, and if there are, the seller buys them out on closing. The next thing is that the seller warrants to the best of their knowledge that the property doesn't contain any hidden defects, no deaths, murders, suicides. I know this is getting a little bit into the uncomfortable zone, but it's very important because those are some items that you may want to know about, perhaps provide a stigma to you if something has happened in that home, and make sure you want to be aware of that. The next thing I'm going to talk about, or the next clause that we've put in here, is that the seller warrants that all mechanical and electrical appliance, including the furnace and heating system, shall be in good working order. The clause goes along a little bit further than that. And generally speaking, what the clause states is that the day that you move in, those items need to be in good working order. However, there's no warranties to those items. So if the next day or a week later, those items break down, it's on the new homeowner. Very similar to this one is that chattels and fixtures are in good working order. If there's anything on the property that you want removed, we could put those clauses in. This kind of ties into maintaining the property in the same condition as it was upon initial inspection by the buyer. So, you know, whether it's snow removal, hopefully we're beyond that by now, but lawn care, garden upkeep, and possibly the most important thing that should be noted in the agreement is that the seller removes all chattels that are not included in the agreement and any refuse from the property. The last thing you want to do is move into a property that has junk left over from the sellers. So make sure that it's in the offer in one of those clauses. And again, that's what the pre-closing visit is for, either the day of closing or the day before, to make sure that those items have been removed from the property. An acknowledgement by the buyer that the real estate broker, the listing real estate brokerage, is holding the deposit in their trust account, and interest may be earned on that. So there's a big disclosure clause surrounding that. So these are a few clauses that I've included in this real estate transaction to spell things out between the buyer and the seller, and also to protect my buyer in the transaction. There are a number of different clauses that you can incorporate into your real estate transaction that are customized to the agreement that you're putting in place. So I hope you found this video informative. Again, I've created another video that talks about the 5 key elements to a real estate transaction, and I'm going to create a link below to that video. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much. And if you need any help with your real estate transaction, please give me a call.